Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a companion video. What are companion videos? Well, I'm awfully glad that you asked. You see, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we take the second half of the show to take your live comments and questions. However, we often don't have enough time to get through all the live comments and questions that get sent in. But if you send in those questions and support this show, I want to make sure your questions get answered in as timely a fashion as possible. So we gather up some of those unused questions and we address them here on companion videos. Now, this is being recorded on Sunday, February the 28th. So we've got a new episode of the John Campea Show tomorrow. Want to get caught up a little bit before we get to that. So let's not waste any time and start getting right to your questions, shall we? We're going to start things off here with Javier Olivia, who writes, one of three. Hey, John, from Spain. Well, hello there, Javier from Spain. It's always good to have my international friends writing in. I was the first to ask you of the possibility of Al Pacino as Mephisto. I've had a lot of people ask about that. Now I'm not sure, but let's play something else. Let's not talk about fandom. Let's talk about business. I play Bob Iger and you play Feige. Hey, Kevin, listen, two or three. Showing Evan Peters as Pietro has increased X-Men viewing on our platform. I don't care how you do it, but we have 7 seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to consume. Do yo magic, Kevin. From a business point of view, I think it makes sense. Also, there were 2 direct references to Daisy with the Hawaiian dancer figure inside the van Darcy stole. Not coincident, they show it twice, approved by Kevin Feige. Your business thoughts, and if you must, where do you put Quake? Captain Marvel 2, Clark Gregg must be in Secret Invasion, hugs. All right, so here's, let's start with that there was no direct reference to Daisy, all right? See, what you're calling here here's what a direct reference to Daisy would have been. This is a direct reference. If you have Director Haywood talking to Monica and saying something like, you know, back when S.H.I.E.L.D. was still in operation, they had an agent named Daisy or Quake or whatever things you want to call her. See, that is a direct reference. That's a direct reference. Your interpretation of a Hawaiian dancer on a hood, by the way, there are many. There's a Geico commercial with that as well. I'm not even sure that was at all even implied to be a reference. So even if you want to assume that was supposed to be a Daisy thing, which I'm not convinced it was, it is at the very best a quasi-hidden Easter egg, not so much a direct reference. Now, as far as the idea goes, now look, full disclosure, everybody knows I'm not a fan of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm a big fan of the Marvel stuff, but Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., frankly, I think is terrible. But I just want to give that disclaimer up front so you can take what I say with that understanding. That being said, the notion that Kevin Feige should compromise the quality of his ongoing, present, really successful show, all for the sake of trying to reference and prop up a former, no longer running, not all that popular show, is not good business. There's no purpose to that. Now, it might be a horse of a different color if, like, Marvel had an upcoming Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show and they wanted to promote something that was new and upcoming and had the chance to be really successful. But you don't throw something in or compromise your current super big successful thing just so you can throw in references to a show that's not even on the air anymore and was never all that popular to begin with, certainly not to the MCU scale. So I really don't think there's anything to that. As far as Clark Gregg, I think as far as Kevin Feige is concerned, Agent Coulson is dead. As far as Kevin Feige is concerned, Agent Coulson died in the Avengers movie, and that was it. So understanding that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was never really all that successful, even the most diehard fans of the show acknowledge that, I really don't see there being any need to bring in. Now, listen, let me be clear. I would love it. Even though I didn't like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, I love Clark Gregg and I love that Agent Coulson character. So I would personally love it if he did. But honestly, I can't see Kevin Feige doing it. I know that's probably not what you wanted to hear me say, but I'm just kind of giving you my kind of honest appraisal of that. That's just my thoughts on that. But listen, Javier, thank you so much for writing that in. And like I said, if they have Clark Gregg pop up as Coulson anywhere, I will be very, very happy about that. I really will. All right. Thanks for saying that in, man. Next up, Gig'em Aggies writes, howdy. Deadline is reporting that the creators of Avatar will help run the new Avatar studios for Nickelodeon and Paramount. Correction. They're not helping run it. They are running it. Great news, in my opinion, especially for fans. Should Netflix cut their losses with their live action? Maybe another generic YA fantasy Netflix does. No. Why should they? Listen, are you telling me Netflix doesn't know how to make awesome series? I think they do. They're very good at that. Now, I have a different opinion about their original movies for the most part, but their original series stuff, they're almost on par with HBO. I mean, I think other than HBO, nobody on the planet does series better than Netflix does. I mean, they've made some of the best series in the world. Cut their losses? No way. No way. Now, I know we as fans, we get really attached to certain things, and we'll start throwing these hyperboles out there like, nothing about Avatar can work if these two guys aren't involved. That's simply not true. I mean, listen, I know this is going to sound sacrilegious and everything, but there's a possibility Netflix may make something that is the best Avatar material, including the animated shows, has ever been. I'm not saying that's what will happen, but I'm saying you're a little bit naive if you don't acknowledge there's that possibility. Netflix has a track record of absolute excellence, not with their original movies, but with their series stuff. They're fantastic. They're absolutely fantastic. I mean, look, think what you will about modern Star Wars, but Mandalorian was awesome without George Lucas. George Lucas wasn't running Mandalorian, and Mandalorian's awesome. Now, the Star Wars fan base may be divided on a lot of other of the Star Wars stuff post George Lucas, but on Mandalorian, pretty much everybody agrees. Mandalorian's awesome. And it didn't have George Lucas. It doesn't need to have these two guys in order for it to be good. Now, am I saying that it's better that they're doing it without them? Absolutely not. Don't misquote me. I'm not saying that. But I believe it's naive to come up with some hyperbolic nonsense and say, it can never be good unless those guys are doing it. That's just simply not true. That's factually not true. Now, it may turn out to be awful. It might. Or it might turn out to be awesome. But no. And listen, if you're a fan of Avatar, this is great. You're getting new animated stuff that's going to be part of this new studio, Avatar Studios, that these two guys, the originators of the character, are going to be running. Plus, you've got one of the best live series production studios and companies in the world in Netflix that's going to be making a live action version of it. This is something to be celebrated, I think. So you're going to be getting a lot of stuff. So I personally think it's good, and I don't see any reason why Netflix would cut their losses and bail on that. Now, again, I'm not saying it's going to be great. I'm just saying you got to be silly not to acknowledge that there's a potential it could be great, and it could be terrible. It could be absolutely horrendous, but it could be awesome. All right, that's my point of view on that at any rate, Gig'em. All right, next up, SP1992 writes, Namaste from India. Well, thank you for lots of international friends writing in today. Been following since the AMC days. Thank you so much. Priyanka Chopra is a huge star here, proud superfan. She mentioned in an interview that Hollywood doesn't know what to do with her as an actor. Your thoughts? Is this due to race and nationality? Listen, first of all, I'll be very frank. I don't recognize the name off the top of my head, just being honest. But I mean, that could be part of it. Part of it could be cultural. Part of it, like, here's a good example of that. Why am I forgetting the name? Give me 1 second to look this up. Back. Why was I freezing on the name Tony Jaa? Okay, Tony Jaa is one of the best action stars. Well, I'll say he's one of the best action stars ever. Tony Jaa is incredible. Ong Bak is amazing. And Tony Jaa was really the heir apparent, the heir to the throne of Jackie Chan. And in some ways even exceeded Jackie Chan as far as doing his crazy own stunts and all this kind of stuff. He's got movie star written all over him. But there were, even though they did work him into a couple of big American movies, they never really had a way of doing it properly. There was a language barrier. So there's a communication barrier. There's things about, do North American characters play better to North American audiences? I'm not saying whether that's a good or a bad or a right or wrong thing. I'm just saying that's probably one of the questions in the air. So I wouldn't doubt it if you look at the career of Tony Jaa. And by the way, there's a lot of other India movie celebrities that have been massively, massively popular there that have popped up here and there in North American films, but never really been able to find that groundwork. So that very well could be part. Now, I'm saying that from a completely uneducated point of view, fully admitted. But if you look at some of the previous examples, it could be one of those things. All right. Thanks for writing that in, man. Appreciate that. All right. K Major writes, John, I'm in trouble. Uh-oh. Been drinking Zevia for close to a year because of you. Cola flavor rocks. I've got Zevia in my cup right now, as a matter of fact. My wife has been making fun of me for drinking it. Well, she finally tasted it, and now I got a case of cola flavor and lemon lime flavor all over the place. Thanks. Just again, K Major. Now, look, for those of you wondering, what's this Zevia thing you're always talking about? So basically, I have a massive snack thing. Like, I feel like I for a long time, I'm always snacking. I don't know if it's like the need to be doing something or whatever. And sometimes that expresses itself in snacking. So when I was younger, I found an alternative to snacking is like drinking soda. And so I was drinking literally two 2-liter bottles of Coke a day. I'm not kidding. There was, when I was younger, I was drinking 2-liter bottles of Coke a day. I was constantly drinking because it replaced snacking. Then I realized how many calories and how bad soda is for you. So I did a moderate switch to diet soda. And I started drinking Diet Pepsi. Still 2-liter bottles Diet Pepsi a day. Then I reduced that a bit. And then I started realizing just how much bad stuff is in all the artificial sweeteners. So I had this drink Zevia recommended to me that is like a cola, but it's no artificial sweeteners, no sugars, no anything like that. And not that it's a health food, but it is way better for you than like the other stuff. And so I started drinking it and I quite enjoy it. Now I drink about not 2-liter bottles of it, but I probably drink 1 to sometimes 2 cans a day of Zevia. So that's what that is. So, and these sons of bitches won't sponsor me. More people buy Zevia because of me than anything else marketing you losers have done. So sponsor me, you sons of bitches. Anyway, thanks for that, K Major. All right, James Lockman writes, one of two. Aloha, Suthius. Sorry, John. This isn't a question about movies. I wanted to send out some well wishes to Suthius and his wife and to anyone else who has been affected by the coronavirus. I don't just care about you and Robert and Aaron, but our newest member, Kimberly. I care about all the John Campea Show viewers, and Suthius is one of our regular viewers who writes in often. This close-knit family we have here on the John Campea Show, one of my best friends works in the ICU and has told me that since last week, they haven't had any Rona patients. Stay safe, everyone. Yeah, and that's a big thing. And James, what a great thing for you to write in. Not just to me, but also referencing some of our other regular community members. That is awesome of you. And listen, for what you mentioned there too, I don't want to get too excited and I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let me just pull up a figure here. California. Okay, so basically we hit the other day. I don't know if it's continued on. It has continued. It has continued. We are now at, I believe, 43 days, 43 or 44 days in a row where the number of new cases has been dropping. Like not long ago, like just on January 12th, we had just in California alone, on January 12th, we had 45,000 new cases of coronavirus. We were averaging 43,000 a day, or every, we were averaging 43,000 a day. That was just a month and a half ago. Now, as of February 27th, our 7-day average is down to 5,500. Now, again, that's 5,500 too many. But that compiled with vaccinations are getting out, that compiled with we're hearing one of the big emergencies, of course, was that there were no hospital beds left. There are a lot more hospital beds now available. Everything looks good. We got theaters reopening in New York. I don't want to get too overly optimistic. We need to stay vigilant. Now is the time for us to not ease up, but to really put our foot to the floor and to take precautions and just be smart. And hopefully hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll have this BS put in our rearview mirror. But again, it's not time to get complacent. Anyway, thank you for bringing all that up, James. That was great of you, man. All right. James Lockman also writes, one of two. John, what earbuds or over-the-ear headphones do you use when you go on your walks? I'm going to start my daily walks, which used to be me walking anywhere from 8 to 16 miles a day. Wow, I do about 5, so that's great. I need to pick up some new headphones or earbuds, but don't want to buy any real expensive ones because I'm afraid of sweating too much might damage the electronics. Any suggestions? I've been thinking about the AirPods Pro. I normally listen to music, but you gave me an idea about buying some audiobooks. Oh yeah, audiobooks is great. And by the way, you can just sign up for Audible. I should really do an Audible sponsorship. I should really do it because I talk about Audible a lot. But you pay 15, I think it's 15 something bucks a month, and you get like 1 book credit a month. And just buying an audiobook is more expensive than that. Anyway, like maybe sometimes twice as expensive that. So there are 2 different types of headphones that I use. And it depends on what it is I'm doing. If I'm a little bit more active, I like to use I use Samsung, the earbuds, the Samsung Pro earbuds. I can't remember the exact name of them, but I use those, mostly because I am an Android guy. I use my Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. And so I really like the Samsung earbuds. They sound great. That's when I'm a little bit more active. But the better sounding ones I have, there are 2 that I use. One is a JBL. Well, I use my JBLs, here on the show, but they also have a really good Bluetooth one. I have a brand new set over here that I have not opened yet. Special thank you to the folks at JBL who are always taking care of me. They're always sending me like really great stuff. So thank you to my friends at JBL, and they make great quality stuff. My new studio speakers are JBL speakers. My headphones are JBL headphones. My sound bar out on my TV is a JBL surround sound detachable speaker system with a great subwoofer. It's great. The headphones I currently use, though, my over-the-ear headphones that I currently use are, I can't remember the exact name of them, but they're the Bose noise canceling over-the-ear headphones. And they have held up really well. I've used them. I've had them now for well over 3 years. I've had them for well over 3 years, and they're still holding up pretty well. The earphone caps are starting to fray a bit, and that's why I'm getting ready to move over to the JBLs. But the JBL Bluetooth ones, the Bose, I can't speak highly enough for how good the Bose have sound. They got the noise cancellation, which is really good. But yeah, either the Samsung earbuds, the Bose things, those are the ones that I use. Hopefully you find something that works for you, James. All right, next up. Michael Bochar writes, "Hey, John and crew. With this new Wakanda series coming to Disney Plus, I feel like they are going to do multiple different seasons, each one being with a different character taking over the mantle of Black Panther. We can still see one character in the movies. I don't agree. The audience gets attached to personalities, right? Part of the reason Captain America worked so well is because it was always Chris Evans. Now, they've completed that storyline, and at different times, maybe they want to move on to other things. But I don't think what you're going to want to see the MCU doing is having a different Black Panther every season and asking the audience to get attached to a new character. That hasn't worked out so well for Batwoman, by the way. Them completely swapping out the character, not just the actress, but they swapped out the character entirely, bring it in. That has not gone over so well with Batwoman, as their ratings continue to fall. So I don't think that would be a good move on their part. Not to mention, right now, we don't even know if the Wakandan series is going to be meant to be an ongoing series, or whether it's going to be meant to be like WandaVision, a limited series, like a one-time, 6 to 8 episode to 10 episode event rather than ongoing. We just don't know the answer to that question yet. But if it is an ongoing thing, I think you're not going to see them wanting to keep swapping out Black Panthers. I don't think you're going to see them wanting to do that. So they'll probably keep it as one continuous story to be in sync with the MCU as a whole. That's my guess. I might be wrong and you may be right, but that's my guess right now. Thanks for writing that in, Michael. Next up, Zaid Habjoka writes, "Hey, John, I'm guessing here for the next episode of WandaVision, it will be a flashback plus seeing." Now, this was probably written in just before the episode aired. Flashback plus seeing the engineer, another theory as well. What if Agatha and Pietro are just evil versions of Wanda and dead Pietro from another universe? Thanks and keep it filthy. Well, of course, we know that's not the case. I mean, this must have been sent in just before the episode aired, but that is obviously not the case. Now that we have seen episode 8, that is not the case. Agatha is actually Agatha. I was really buying into that one theory that Agatha was just another character in the Hex, that another one of Wanda's characters, right? But no, she's really there, and they've obviously done a lot of things different for that. And like we've said all along, I thought episode 8 was going to be a flashback episode. It pretty much was. We did not see the engineer. I thought there was a good chance. Now, I said I won't be surprised if they do, but I won't be surprised. I won't be surprised if they don't do an engineer cameo in episode 8, but don't be surprised if they do. I still thought there was a possibility, and there was a possibility, but I really thought there was a decent possibility. What we didn't get in episode 7, we would get in episode 8 with the engineer. But that didn't happen. And it was still great. I still think it was the best episode. I think episode 8 is the best episode of the show so far. All right, KDog23 writes, hello, John. Theories. Jimmy is actually Talos. Well, wouldn't that be interesting? When he made the comment that Captain Marvel came close, is because of his relationship with Captain Marvel and Monica. Also, Hayward is actually Loki. No, I don't think so. His unwillingness to call the Avengers is a Loki move. No, again, Loki popping up would be extremely random. It would be an extremely random sort of thing, and I don't think that works at all. Jimmy being Talos, it's not the craziest theory. I mean, I don't think that's the case. I do not think Jimmy is Talos, but there's really nothing in the MCU up until this point that completely rules that possibility out. I mean, it's not like Captain Marvel can only have one fan in the world, being Talos, but that's not crazy. K-Dog, let's keep our eyes on that as we move forward. Interesting theory. Tyler Pfeiffer writes, hey, John, have you seen Seven Psychopaths? One of the most underrated films of the last few years with a loaded cast. Sam Rockwell never ceases to amaze me. The Way Back is another brilliant one of his roles. I did see Seven Psychopaths. Next to nobody. Let me bring it up. Let me bring it up here. This is all the way back in like 2011, 2012. Sorry, 2012 is when it came out. Did not do great. And honestly, could have been better. But it's got decent ratings. But the cast was pretty neat. Colin Farrell was kind of like the big name, but Christopher Walken, Sam Rockwell, obviously. So it was a really solid cast. It had kind of that, I mean, at least the marketing for it kind of had that little bit of a Guy Ritchie kind of feel to it. Like it has a little bit, it feels like a movie that would be directed by Guy Ritchie, the guy who directed Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch and The Gentleman and Aladdin. Actually, he directed the live action Aladdin with Will Smith, which is like completely out of left field that one came from. I like Seven Psychopaths. I don't recall thinking it was like the greatest thing in the world. Like I said, it's been about 8 years since I've watched it, maybe 9 years now since I've seen it. I never felt the need to go back and watch a lot, but I remember enjoying it. And again, it's kind of, if you like those types of movies that I was just referencing, then Seven Psychopaths could be one for you. And Colin Farrell is amazing. Sam Rockwell is amazing. Christopher Walken is Christopher Walken. So that's a good recommendation, Tyler. If you guys haven't seen Seven Psychopaths, go check it out. Take Tyler's recommendation. All right, next up, we've got The Joe D writes, now hear this, confirmed. The Luke Skywalker level cameo in WandaVision will be none other than Cockknocker from the Blunt Man and Chronic franchise. You're welcome. That would be the definition of random, but man, if something like that were to happen, it would make that very small demographic of people extremely happy, the Joe D. Extremely happy. All right, next up, The Wakandan Forever writes, yes, John, I'm going to speak for the fans. Kimberly, we love you. Kimberly is, of course, a new person around the John Campea YouTube channel. She helps me out with the companion videos. She's awesome. We really love having her here, and she makes my life a hell of a lot easier. You're the best. I gravitate to main hero. The only exception is Kato, and not just for Bruce Lee. Even in the 2011 Green Hornet, he was more interesting. Which sidekick does that for you? Oh, that's an interesting question. By the way, the Seth Rogen Green Hornet movie was better than I thought it would be. And I admitted that to Seth Rogen too. Like I admit going into it, I thought, well, this is going to be a waste of time. And I when I was sitting with Seth Rogen, I actually told him this. I said, look, I'll be honest with you. I didn't think this was going to be very good. I really didn't. But color me pleasantly surprised. I liked it. And it didn't get great reviews and it didn't do incredibly well. You have the 2-time Academy Award winner Christoph Waltz in that as well. I thought but I liked it. And you know what's the funny thing is, why am I forgetting his name? Let me see if I can get it here. Stephen Chow of Shaolin Soccer, and what was the name of the other one? Everybody else talks about the other one, but Shaolin Soccer, Kung Fu Hustle. Everybody talks about Kung Fu Hustle. I'm sorry, the best Stephen Chow movie is Shaolin Soccer. Anyway, Stephen Chow of Kung Fu Hustle and Shaolin Soccer fame, he was supposed to be Kato in that. For the longest time, he was lined up to play Kato, and I can't remember what went wrong with that. But anyway, the guy who did play it, and I can't remember who did a good job too, and I ended up liking that movie. But which sidekick do I really like? That's a good question. I'm not terribly big on sidekicks. Like, I'm not, but I'm sure if I sat down and thought, it's a great question, Wakanda, but I would have to think about it for a while. But hey, rest of you guys, jump down into the comment section. If you got a favorite superhero sidekick, jump on down there and let Wakanda Forever know what you think. It's a good question. All right, next up, King Artros of Monteval writes, hey, John, just watched a Netflix film called I Care a Lot. Yeah, it's supposed to be really good. I have not watched it yet. It stars Rosamund Pike and Peter Dinklage. The A-list actors do not disappoint. I just want to know if you've seen it and what are your thoughts. And as always, bring on the filthy. Now, I thought that looked really good, but I heard quite mixed things about it. So let me just bring this up here quickly. 1 second. So, what was it called again? I Care a Lot, Rotten Tomatoes. Just see what they're saying about it. Because somebody I know didn't like it so much. I thought it looked really good. But you know what? It's holding like an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. It's holding an 80%. Now, you guys know me. While I think Netflix is like one of the best in the world at their live action series, even a lot of their animated series is really good. I am not as big of a fan of their original movies. There are some very rare exceptions, but for every one Irishman or for every one The Old Guard, there's like 20 garbage ones, maybe even 30 garbage ones. So I tend not to keep up very well with Netflix original movies, except for the album. Like I'm looking forward to Army of the Dead, and there's a couple others I'm looking forward to. But then I heard this wasn't so great, but it's holding an 80% of Rotten Tomatoes. I might have to get around and check that one out. Thanks for the recommendation of that, King Artros. All right, next up. Anmal Bajpai writes, 1 of 3. Hi, John. Love the show. Thank you so much. I don't think any of Marvel television has ever been canon given the behind-the-scenes divide. Feige's ignorance and complete lack of involvement and just convoluted plot lines don't really fit with the MCU. Huh? Also, let's go back. I love Daredevil, but can do without everything else. And we all know Feige's nature to tightly control everything MCU related. Now that Marvel TV has shut down and Feige's Disney Plus era begins, do you think Marvel/Feige will ever officially label shows as not canon, especially if they want to use characters like Ghost Rider or Daredevil? Or will it always be a neither confirm nor deny, but hush hush, it's not really canon since they don't want to lower potential revenue from those shows? All right, that's a good question. I think I understand what you're saying. It kind of came across like you're saying that Kevin Feige is ignorant, but I don't. Reading the rest of what you're saying, you probably didn't mean to say ignorance the way you're writing the rest of that. Anyway, to the question. Will Feige? Because you're right. It's kind of been a don't show, don't tell kind of a mentality, right? Like while Kevin Feige has never acknowledged those other MCU shows, He has also never blatantly and, straight up denied them. Like Kevin Feige, to the best of my knowledge, unless you guys know of something that I'm missing out on, to the best of my knowledge, Feige has never straight up said, those things ain't canon. Those things are not actually a part of my MCU. He's never actually come right out and said that, to the best of my knowledge. Now, if we get a Matt Murdock show up, which we will eventually, if we get a Matt Murdock show up and it ain't Charlie Cox, well, then there's your confirmation. If we get a Ghost Rider and it ain't, I forget the dude who played him in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but if it ain't that, then there's your confirmation. If we get a Luke Cage and it's somebody else, there's your confirmation. I do believe that, okay, here's what I believe, but this is just what I believe, not what I know, okay? There's always a difference between what we believe and what we know. We know some things, but some things we just believe. What I believe is that Kevin Feige will ultimately just straight up denounce the other shows and completely move on without them. And basically say, no, yeah, that Daredevil was good, but here's your Daredevil. And it ain't Charlie Cox, and it ain't that Daredevil from Netflix. I believe that's what they will do. Whenever they get around to doing Punisher, it won't be Jon Bernthal. And Jon Bernthal was awesome as Punisher. But again, I don't know that he's going to do that. That's just kind of what I believe he's going to do. We'll find out. But that's kind of what I'm thinking. It's a good question, man. And that's the direction I think they're heading in. All right. Anonymous on Purpose writes, if Tobey and Andrew are in Spider-Man 3, I believe they will show it in the trailer just so they can pull in people that are still somewhat iffy on going back to the theaters. It's a fun little bait, unless it's a J.K. Simmons type of cameo. So yeah, we were asking on the show the other day, if Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are in Spider-Man 3, which is what I believe will happen, but again, I don't know. And there has been some things coming up that suggest they may not, but I still kind of believe they will. I believe it'll be small roles, but what have you. We were asking on the show the other day, okay, let's assume for a second that Tobey and Andrew are going to appear, even if it's going to be a small part, in Spider-Man 3. Is this something that Sony and Marvel would want to advertise and market to get people excited and get them in the seats? Or would it be something that they would try to keep really quiet and surprise the audience with, a la J.K. Simmons popping up at the end of Far From Home as J. Jonah? And that's a good question. And I still don't really know. There are big advantages to both. Now, with the big surprise thing, look, the biggest pop in Spider-Man Far From Home. It's never a good thing when the biggest, most exciting thing in your movie is something that happens in the post-credits, but the biggest cheer and pop and excitement in Spider-Man Far From Home was the post-credit scene with J. Jonah. That was it. So to have something like that in your movie, that's valuable. At the same time, you put out trailer number 3, maybe not the first trailer, maybe not even trailer number 2, but you put out trailer number 3 and you show, Tom Holland standing there doing something. It's like, hey, and then hear this voice from behind him. Hey, kid, we need to talk. And he turns around and the camera pans and there's Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in a trailer. That trailer is going to get close to breaking some trailer viewership records. I'm going to tell you that right now. So there's a lot of advantages to both. And I'll be honest with you, man, I'm not sure which way they're going to go. Again, I don't think there's a wrong answer. The one thing, though, is if they want to if Sony and Marvel want to keep it a secret, that's going to be hard. Like, I don't think a lot of people are going to be stunned because so many of us are already talking about Tobey and Andrew maybe popping up in it. And so it's not going to be like the JK thing that caught a lot of people by surprise. This won't catch a lot of people by surprise. We're kind of expecting it at this point. And we're talking about them needing to keep it under wraps and keep it secret for another, 7-8 months? That they have to continue to keep it secret for. So that's going to be a tall order. So maybe the best thing to do is to go with the whole marketing thing. I don't know, but it's, again, I don't think there's a wrong answer here. Either one of them will deliver big, big benefits. All right, next up, we've got JR who writes, one of two. If the Nexus proves to truly be a bridge to separate realities, is it possible that they could have the X-Men universe be its own separate banner in the MCU? A universe where our heroes don't exist and all the traditional lore still applies. Genetic mutation, humans fearing mutants, etc. They could create their own universe from the ground up without the clashing of lore with current MCU, i.e., where have the mutants been all this time and only have Nexus characters. All right, so this goes to the heart, Jay, of something that I've kind of been saying for a long time. This is something that I believe there's something they should do, but I don't believe it's something that they will do. I've said forever, look, going all the way back to when Disney was trying to get Fox, Comcast, some people forget this now, Comcast was also bidding to get Fox. And they drove the price up by like $20 billion that Disney had to pay. But Comcast was trying to get Fox too. And I was actually cheering for Comcast to get it. It's not that I hate Disney. It's just that I wanted another company to have X-Men. Since the X-Men were already separate from the MCU already, I was kind of wanting it to stay that way because then we'd have more diversity with more different studios making properties and things like that. And I just thought it would be better. Plus, the MCU is already, in my opinion, getting overcrowded. I mean, that's without the addition of 500 New Mutants with the X-Men. I kind of believe that the MCU is getting overcrowded. It just simply is. So I've always thought, okay, what would be best for them to do is, if Disney got it, okay, make X-Men its own completely separate cinematic universe. You know, that way you don't have to solve the problems about where have mutants been this whole time. You don't have to sabotage all the core mythology of X-Men and mutants and all that kind of stuff. And it gives you another separate cinematic universe without having to tie them all together and make them handcuffed to each other. So that's what I believe they should have done. Could the Nexus offer them that opportunity? Yes, it could. It absolutely could. Is that what they're doing? I really don't think so. I think there's far too much pressure. Right now, the audience is too obsessed with everything being in one cinematic universe, which I don't necessarily think is a good thing always. I think there are a lot of great benefits to it, but I also don't think it should be the only philosophy. But I think there's way too much pressure for them to do that. And so while I do believe that is something they could do, JR, while I believe that is something within the realm of them being able to do, I don't think it's what they're going to do. But you never know. You never know. They continue to surprise us. Let's see where they go. All right. Louis Maya writes, "Hey, John, I know the who the Luke Skywalker cameo is. It's David Hasselhoff reprising his role as Nick Fury. Also, I think Wanda might take the whole town with her elsewhere. If she can expand it, then maybe she can move it to another reality. Maybe, but that seems out of character with the way the show's been going. And again, I'm not sure if this question was sent in before episode 8 or not. It might have been after episode 8 aired, but it doesn't seem to where they're going. I still think this is going to end badly. I still think this is going to end with a Wanda really angry and really broken, setting up stuff to come later on. Now, I'm not sure. But man, I'm not going to lie. If they open up the Nexus of all realities and in comes David Hasselhoff with the patch over his eye, I'm not going to lie. I'll probably let out a yelp. I probably will. The one other thing I'll say about it is this. And by the way, I just noticed you tipped in $50. Thank you, man, for supporting our channel on that level. Seriously, that is awesome. Thank you. The one thing about the idea of Wanda taking all of Westview somewhere else, whether it's somewhere else in the world or whether it's to another dimension or whatever, just the basic principle of Wanda moves Westview somewhere else. It would be interesting because in in Spider-Man Far From Home, which takes place, of course, 7 months after the events of WandaVision, there is no mention of the events of WandaVision. They still refer to Vision as being dead. Wanda is never mentioned or brought up. Maybe it's possible that Wanda straight up takes Westview and puts it somewhere in the middle of the ocean as its own little island now. or in an alternate reality or thing. And maybe that's why just she's gone. Again, there are still problems with that. And it is a little outside of the nature of the way the show's been going, but that it would check off some boxes now that I think about it. So I don't know. Let's see where they go. All I know is that we got one episode left. And they could throw a lot of curveballs at us, man. They could throw a lot of curveballs at it. And maybe that'll be one of them. You know, the more I'm thinking about it, yeah. I'm not saying I buy the theory, but the more I'm thinking about it, the more possible it seems. Let me think on that a little bit more, man. I like it. And again, thank you so much for supporting our channel on that level, man. It's very appreciated. All right, next up. Jay R writes 3 of 2. What? I can't count. And have Nexus characters like Wanda or someone else to be the bridge between them for the occasional crossover film. Again, yeah, that is absolutely possible, and we'll see where they go with that. All right, Josh Craig writes, hey, John, be prepared to call me Stretch Armstrong for this reach, but what if the subtitle of the next Spider-Man film, No Way Home, is actually referring to the Maguire and Garfield Spider-Man being stuck in our world and unable to return to theirs? I mean, listen, that's, if it weren't for the fact that everybody seems to understand and is saying that even if Toby and Andrew are appearing in the film, they're going to be very, very small roles. I'm not saying as small as J. Jonah was as just a quick little after credit scene, but really, really small. Really small. So I doubt that, and I'm saying doubt, not no. I'm not saying I know. I'm just saying I doubt they would build the entire title of the film around a couple of quick cameo appearances by a couple of characters. So I believe that is unlikely. Unlikely, but so was Jamie Foxx coming back as Electro. That was unlikely. Hell, that was more than unlikely. And yet here we are. So I don't think so, man. I don't think so. But let's not write it off as an impossibility at this point. All right. The Canon writes, hello, Campea, longtime fan. Thank you so much. I like to urge everyone to replace who cares with why do you care? It is obviously the person making the point and likely others care. So it sounds dismissive. However, why do you care leads to a very different discussion. That's, you know what? I mean, it's just semantics. It's just semantics, but sometimes semantics are important. That's not, I mean, but sometimes even the wording of who cares would be applicable depending on the nature of the question. Because, you know, if somebody's asking something, you know, pertinent to them, then maybe, yeah, why do you care is a good question. But quite often it's not pertinent to the person asking the question. So the answer, the literal answer of who cares, raising the specter of, do you hear people asking for this or caring about this? So I guess it depends on the situation. I think the interesting thing here, Canon, is neither one of them is a good blanket one, but you're right. I think sometimes maybe the way you've worded it, granted it's just semantics, but why do you care could be more applicable. That's actually a really good idea. You know what? I'm going to try to keep that in mind. That's a really good little tool. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you, man. All right. Double B Studio writes, I think I got it this time. Yes, Wanda created Agatha. Turns out she didn't. That book of spells is Amun-Ra, the mummy, and used it to bring back Vision with his corpse, and it could still be all Wanda. Well, the problem is you probably sent that in a few hours before WandaVision aired, and now we know that none of that is true. Wanda did not create Agatha. Agatha has been around since the 1600s, so there's that. And it was Wanda who created this version of Vision that we have running around there and all that sort of delightful stuff. Now, look, we still have a lot of, I think, big surprises coming in the final episode. Some people are saying like, oh, the final episode's got to be like an hour and a half long. It won't be. It's probably going to be like 45 to 50 minutes. But it'll probably be the longest episode we've had so far. And they got a lot they got to fit in there. And let's see where they go with that. All right, War Doctor 10 writes, hey, John and crew. Since there are no secret identities in the MCU, I think Peter getting outed as Spider-Man was inevitable, and the Spider-Man No Way Home title has something to do with the multiverse. Thoughts? Well, here's the thing. I still kind of think, and this is just random speculation. I'm not basing this on anything, okay? Just random, pure fan speculation. I believe by the time we really get into the movie, his secret identity is going to be established again. Like, I really think they're going to like deal with this whole Mysterio said Peter Parker was Spider-Man. I think that's literally going to get dealt with and put away in the first 10 minutes of the movie. And I don't think it's going to affect the rest of the film. I really don't. I really don't. Now, again, that is pure unadulterated speculation on my part. Absolutely. As far as it having the title having something to do with the multiverse, everybody's thinking that right now. I mean, that's the prevailing thought with everybody. Since we know that WandaVision, Spider-Man 3, and Doctor Strange 2, which is called Multiverse of Madness, Kevin Feige has let us know that's one connected story arc. No Way Home probably does have something to do with multidimensional stuff. How much? How prevalent will it be? Don't know, but that is the prevailing theory right now, War Doctor. All right, next up. Suthius writes, hey guys, though I'm only 35, I hope that when I get into my 40s and 50s, I can still be just as nerdy as you guys. I hope that I will still be able to get just as excited about Marvel, DC, Star Wars, etc., 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 as you guys do. Nerdiness comes in all ages. Like, yes, when you talk about 40s, me, 50s, Rob, 60s, whoever else, 70s, whoever else. Stan Lee kept his nerdiness. The thing is, you don't discover your nerdiness at this age, although you can. It never leaves you, man. It never leaves you. And I hope I never lose my love of this stuff. Now, I love a lot of things. I love period piece. I love heavy drama. I love biopics. I mean, depending on if it's about the right subject matter or not. But yeah, there's always been a special place of awe and wonder for me for things like Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica and, Battle of the Planets, Space Battleship Yamato, things like that have always just really somehow, some way, for whatever reason, taps into that special place of your imagination. And I think when you lose your connection to your imagination, I think that's when you start to die, is when you lose that tapping into your own imagination and allowing things to tap into your imagination and to spark and excite your imagination. And that's what this type of material does. Whether it's DC material, Marvel material, or Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever, it's these things that really tend to do that. And that's why I still love them to this day. All right. Thanks for that, Suthius. Next up, Kung Fu Hot Dog writes, happy birthday. Of course, my birthday was the other day. Whenever you get this message, John, I have no issues with Blade being a PG-13 MCU film. He was also a badass in Marvel Alliance 3, a video game for teens. As long as the story and character are great, I don't care. And of course, this was a big issue the other day because Kevin Feige made some comments while he never mentioned Blade 3 by name. Kevin Feige came out the other day and basically said, yeah, other than Deadpool 3, we have never felt the need, or Deadpool, whatever next Deadpool thing we do. He didn't say Deadpool 3. But, other than Deadpool, which is already established with Ryan Reynolds as being very R-rated, we're going to let that alone. But we have never felt the need for any of our other material to be rated R in order for us to do what we want to do. Of course, the implication there is that, well, since they are working on Blade right now, that Blade is probably going to be PG-13. Look, if it were me, I would make Blade rated R. But the notion that you can't do a great Blade movie if it's PG-13 is absolute bullshit. Yes, you can. Maybe a little differently, but you can. You can make an absolutely awesome Blade movie at PG-13. Would I do it R? Do I think it's a little bit more lends itself to being R? Yeah, I do. But I also think it's naive and a little myopic to think that, it can't be done otherwise. It can't be done. Well, it can. Because listen, when you're using a sword to chop up monsters, you can do that in PG-13. You want to have your hero hold his enemy by the head and then take a sword and cut their head off? Guess what? If they're robots, like they did in Transformers when Optimus Prime was beheading some Decepticons, you can do that in PG-13. You want to do that to a bunch of vampires? Guess what? You can get away with a lot in PG-13. Now, will Mahershala Ali be dropping F-bombs every 15 seconds? No, but would that actually make the movie better? Not really. So again, I am saying I personally would make it R. But Kevin Feige, is anybody going to have the testicles to stand up and say Kevin Feige doesn't know what he's doing? Anybody want to do that? Anybody want to take a swing at that bat? I'm not. If he says he can make a great Blade movie and make it PG-13, until he proves that he can't, he's earned the benefit of the doubt. So, okay, yeah, I would do it R. But they're going to do a PG-13, apparently. And I think you have to be extremely close-minded to say that can't work. I mean, it's cool like me to say I have reservations and man, I was really hoping to see it R, and I think you'd be better served to go R. That's all cool and that's all fine. But I think you'd have to be extremely closed-minded to say it can't work. No, you're wrong. It can. It can. Doesn't mean it will, but it can. So again, Kevin Feige's earned the benefit of the doubt. Let's see what he does. And if it doesn't work, maybe he changes his mind later. If it does, then we have to eat crow, which is great. You know, things that pleasantly surprise us is always the best crow to eat, right? Like I thought, I was just talking about, I didn't think that Green Hornet movie was going to be any good, and I ended up really liking it. So that's crow you love eating. So why not? Let's see where it goes. All right, next up, Roll of the Egg writes, "Hey, John and Co. Films of the breakfast multiverse, Tales of the Wheat Shredder, Raisin Bran, What's So Special About K, Hold My Berries. I can go on and on. Actually, I can't because I'm tapped out. You and your crew take care and keep the filthy coming." So where that's coming from was in the show the other day. I can't remember what the specific circumstances were or how specifically it came about. But somebody brought up the idea. It's like, man, they're trying to do cinematic universe. Maybe it was even me that was saying it. I can't remember. They're trying to do cinematic universes with everything. It's only a matter of time before they do a, serial mascot shared cinematic universe where Tony the Tiger and the Leprechaun and Captain Crunch on the high seas, and they all have a big shared cinematic universe. So roll the egg. That seemed to capture your imagination. All right, next up, the Dano Channel writes, "I haven't heard this thrown out there yet, but what if the big WandaVision guest star is Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn? Too random, too out of nowhere, completely unconnected to everything that's been going on, so it's probably unlikely. I think an actor of his talents would be equal to a Mark Hamill/Luke appearance and could potentially break the internet. It wouldn't break the internet. Again, that would be something, like if you talk about something like John Krasinski showing up as Reed Richards, there's definite connective tissue there that makes narrative sense. If you want to talk about maybe Magneto showing up, which I don't think is going to happen, but I think it's one of the things, there's connective narrative tissue there that makes it make sense. Willem Dafoe showing up as Osborn out of nowhere, like that would just be, it doesn't connect narratively. It would just be a completely random thing. It's like blah, 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 blah. And then Norman Osborn shows up. It's like, what? How does that at all connect with any of this? I just think it would be too wildly random. Plus, I don't think that breaks the internet. I think it would be really interesting. And it's like a lot of people go, wow, but would that break the internet? I don't think so. But it would be cool. But again, it would also be completely and utterly random. But anything is possible, man. Anything is possible. Because if it does happen, and we get into the final episode and Willem Dafoe comes strolling in there, maybe I can help with some of my inventions, and it's Norman Osborn. I'll remember you said that, Dano Channel. I think we will all remember that you said that, so let's keep an eye on that. All right. Agent Cajun writes, 1 of 4. I'm sorry about the last time I wrote. I forget what I know to be intuitively obvious isn't universal. I use the shorthand taught for taking notes in college, like leaving off ease to words like some becomes some. What I was trying to say, because, and that's not just you, Agent, like a lot of people got to remember when you're writing something out to send in, stop for a second, read it over and pretend you're not you. Just say you're a random person now just reading this for the first time. Are they going to be able to quickly and easily, immediately read right through it and understand exactly what it is you're asking? And if not, maybe go back and rewrite it a bit. So it happens sometimes. All right. Teen Johnny Storm and Peter Parker were role models as they're the first teen heroes, not sidekicks. Part of the reason for getting a good Fantastic Four movie is the importance of those characters to us. At my age, it's hard to wait 10 years. Might not have them. And now for something completely different, Monty Python. Next, I'm the aerospace engineer in techno speak, on WandaVision, shuttle design engineer. Lastly, I said writing this was like programming the 4K, hashtag bits, pet computer trying to get one more. Bit flag. Been reading comics since 57. I wish we would have had something like the DC Universe site, convenient and portable. You can walk around with hundreds of comics without damaging them, still collect. Wish Marvel needs something like that. So, well, Marvel does kind of have something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Do they not? I'm pretty sure Marvel has their own kind of digital thing, at any rate. You know, you mentioned you were reading comics since 57. It reminds me a lot of John Schnepp and Robert, both of whom were a little bit older than me. But, you know, they had been reading comics and all that kind of stuff like since before my time. And one of the things that they would always say, and even though I'm a little bit younger than them, I can totally relate, but I can only imagine for those who are even a little bit older than me, must relate even more. You know, John Schnepp would often talk about, him and Robert would often talk about how you have no idea. Like when they're going in to see an Avengers movie, they would say like, you just have no idea. They would say this on the show. That we were growing up in an era where this was inconceivable. This was inconceivable that we would someday get to see these stories actually in live action, done well and look amazing. Like it was nerdvana. It was something that could never actually be, but it's like the utopian idea if you were a geek in that time. And I think the older you are, the more and more you probably, at least I've recognized this with fans. Like I noticed that with fans who are like younger than me, really get that better than they do. And I find that the fans who are older than me really get that even much better than I get it. Because, I mean, you were there, you were in those eras longer where that material was there, but there wasn't even the possibility, not even the dream of being able to have a DCEU on screen, of being able to have an MCU on screen, of being able to walk around with a device in your pocket that could access all the comics and all the material right there at your fingertips. You know, instead of having your crate boxes, you know, comic book collectors, you know what I'm talking about, the crate boxes piling up in your attic and whatever, having thousands of issues there, you can walk around with all of them right in your pocket. Like the fact that you're able to have that today is so crazy and so good. And I think it's always good for us to remember that, man, to appreciate exactly how good it is we have it and how big of a deal this stuff is. So anyway, thanks for writing that in, Agent. I appreciate that. All right. Daniel Vasquez writes, New Mexico finally reopening their theaters in a couple of weeks after they closed when the pandemic started last March. How could movie studios or theater companies complain to LA and New York about not having theaters reopen, but not New Mexico beforehand? Let me just read that one part again. Closed. How can movie studios or theater companies complain to LA and New York about not having theaters open, but not New Mexico beforehand? So the reason is this. You know, Aaron Cummings and I were having this discussion the other day about how, you know, theaters reopening, and Aaron, you know, brought up a very good point. She goes, well, you know, in a lot of places, theaters have been open. And I said, yes, but the thing about New York and LA is not just that they're big markets. That's really not even the main thing when it comes to the studios. It's not just that they're big markets. It's that they are what they call the tastemaker markets, right? Now, you can complain and say that's not the way it should be and all that kind of stuff. And that's a fine discussion to have, but should be's is not relevant here. It is what it is. New York and LA are the taste-making markets. If something doesn't catch on in LA and New York, it's going to be very, not impossible. Things do happen, but it's going to be hard for it to catch on worldwide. When they do become popular in LA and New York, that's really projects them a lot. So for the movie studios, one of the big reasons that they have held back having movies, and that's one of the other things I've said to Aaron, was when Aaron brought up to me that, you know, there are places that have had movie theaters open. I said, yeah, but that's irrelevant because there's no movies. At least not the you know, the vibrant movie-going experience type of stuff that we are accustomed to having. They're not there. And the reason why a lot of studios put the brakes on is because they couldn't get those movies out in the tastemaker markets. And that's key, and that's important. So while my hometown of Hamilton, Ontario, maybe didn't have the theaters open, and while maybe New Mexico didn't have their theaters open, that's not really the top concern of the studios, because, New Mexico, my hometown of Hamilton, that's not really the tastemaker markets. They needed New York and LA to be open. And that's why it's such a big deal that now looks like New York is coming back online, and it sounds like LA is not going to be too far behind. Again, as long as everybody continues to do the good things, we keep seeing numbers drop, vaccinations keep going up, all that kind of stuff, we could be, the light at the end of the tunnel is now in sight. Again, I'm not saying that's it, everybody, it's done, we came out the other side. No, but the end of the tunnel is in sight. And I think that's probably the main reason, Daniel, why much bigger issues are made out of those markets. Not that they're more important cities than anywhere else, but from an entertainment and pop culture point of view, those are the epicenters. And they really need things to hit there to be able to spread wide. So anyway, that's just kind of that. But it's a good question to ask, man. It's a good question to ask. All right, next up. And final question of the day, guys. This will be it, and then we'll pick up again on the John Campea Show tomorrow. Bryce's Sons of Anarchy Hug writes, when Agatha said, I bit a kid once, which is like still my, no, sorry. I bit a kid once. I bit a child once. That was my favorite line in WandaVision. It's not anymore. What is grief if not love persevering is now not only the best line of WandaVision, it's the line of the year. That's something. I don't have any tattoos. That's something I would tattoo on my arm. What is grief if not love persevering? That is like one of the best lines in any comic book movie ever. The only thing I can think of that had more emotional impact to me was Pa Kent saying to young Clark, "You are my son," in Man of Steel. Other than that line, this might be the most emotionally powerful line I've ever heard in a comic book property. I mean, it was just crazy. Anyway, where were we? Oh, yes. When Agatha said, I bit a kid once, I had the funny thought of if she was magically the spider that bit Tom. You're like the second or third person to bring that up. If she was the spider that bit Tom Holland's Peter Parker and created the versions of Spider-Man by magic, not science. Just a funny thought. Listen, seriously, Bryce, you're not the only one to come up. I've heard some other people say that exact thing. And you know what? When I first heard somebody mention that, I obviously thought, well, that's kind of ridiculous. That's not what they did. But I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can go. And again, Spider-Man 3 is a part of the story arc of WandaVision. So could there? I mean, I don't really think there is, but is it really that preposterous that it's outside of the realm of possibility? No. So again, I don't think that's what it is at all, but within the realm of possibility, it could be. Although then you'd have to ask motivation. Why would the Agatha character do that? What's the point? Yeah, it becomes unlikely, super unlikely actually, but it is an interesting thought. All right, guys, listen. There are still more questions to come, like another one from Bryce and Tony W. and Xander Xerxes. Do not worry, guys. We're going to pick up with those questions when we do the John Campea Show tomorrow. That'll be on Monday, and I hope you guys will come and join us for that. But for now, that'll do it, guys, for this installment of the companion video. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here. And listen, do me a favor. If you enjoy these types of discussions, these types of topics, and these types of videos, whether you agree or disagree with whatever my points of view are, but if you enjoy this kind of material, do me a favor. Click that thumbs up button. Just give an engagement here. Drop into the comment section. Leave a thought, all that kind of stuff. All that sort of engagement helps the channel. And for all of those of you who do that, I thank you very much. Special thank you to all you guys who did send in these questions. Number one, because you give us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you support this channel while you do it. And again, all of us here involved with the John Campea YouTube channel, thank you guys so much for that support. Okay, guys, remember, do the four main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and take care of the people around you. My name is John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.